Okay, so let's continue. So now we have my file here. We have a rough texture applied to it with a little bump and a little specularity that hopefully we're gonna make to show up in a little bit more. There's a trick in Maya that we have, and actually it's not Maya, it's Arnold, that will help us improving the quality of our shader, the quality of our object. And although we can continue fine tuning the values of my shader here, in truth, I could kind of have a little bit of a kind of head start by modifying my material, and I'm going to modify my material by using some presets, and this come with Arnold, and actually those presets are pretty cool, and there are a bunch of them, different materials, and I invite you to play with them and get familiar. And there is one that is called brushed metal, which is, coincidence, my object is made of sort of material brushed metal. So when I say replace, what that does is, of course, that changes the some of the characteristics of my object, but it keeps the textures that I created. Only they changed some of the values that it had in terms of the different specularity, in terms of the metalness, in terms of the subsurface and the coat and the sheen and all that kind of stuff. I'm gonna just go and play back a very better render out my object. Now you can see how much it's changed. It became very, very dark, but a little bit more of shine to it. So we're gonna just stop it there, and but there is some interesting stuff going on there. So I'm going to move my window out of the way for a moment here, and I'm going to look out out my object to show you what's going on. So at this moment, I'm going to just render out the object right there. You can see it's pretty dark. So part of it is because the light is very dim. So I can crank up the light a little bit more and say, for example, increase intensity. Although with Arnold, talk about light more better, but I try to increase the exposure of the light. I just go to 2. So you can brighten up your scene a tiny bit more. And that makes it better, not too bad. And you can see a little bit more shininess there, but it's not quite what I want. So I'm going to play with some additional things, tricks to make it work better. So for now, that is good enough. We're just going to hold it there. And I'm going to continue my process and the texturing. So I'm going to texture my, the handles themselves. And the handles, right now they have flat, material there, Lambert or something. So I'm going to create a new material for that Lambert for that handles. And that material, I'm going to create again a standard surface material. Let me just grab it there. And that's a standard surface. And that one I'm going to use out of the get-go a preset. And I'm going to use a preset to be a rubber. There's a rubber right there. I'm going to use it right, from the get-go. And that rubber gives me a few specifics in specularity, no metalness at all. Some of the diffuse roughness is taken care of, and roughness being very, very, very low. Specularity is a little bit, but not a lot. I'm gonna change the color of that base. I'm gonna make it. I had already prepared kind of like a dark red for it, and I'm gonna assign that material. I'm gonna rename it. Actually, I'm gonna call it a standard. I'm gonna call it rubber. Red rubber, and I'm going to assign that to the 2 handles that I have. I also should rename the other one, the other material that I had created, the one that I created for the metal. So I'm going to call it AI. I still want to keep the concept of AI, that way I don't forget it's standard. I'm going to call it metal body. Alright, and so you see that, and I'm going to just render that out quickly. Oh, not that one, this one. So you see that the objects start looking a little bit better, and and I'm going to create a material for that screw, which would be a pure metallic screw, not that one. Let's see, my hypershader is. I'm going to create another standard material, and this one I'm going to use again a preset, a metal preset. You can use a chrome if you want, and see how it looks. Maybe a little too much, but I'll try it. Replace it. I'm gonna call it AI standard chrome, just to change it a little bit. I can fine tune it a little bit later too. So I'm gonna select my screw. I'm gonna assign that chrome to it, so I have my standard chrome there, and I'm gonna just do a quick test of it to see if I can see it. Not that one. I always get lost with my windows. Here it is. So I'm going to render it out, and you can see that screw becoming a lot shinier too. It's very dark, but it's shinier. Okay, so I'm getting there. It's looking a little bit better. So I'm going to just pause this for a moment, put it down there, and what do I need? If you look at your image, of course, there are multiple things that need to be improved. More light, probably. Probably tone down the bump some more, and maybe some more reflection to get the metal showing so a bit better. So I'm gonna not crank the light, but I'm gonna put a fill light. So this light is exposure 2, intensity 1. I'm gonna create a second light, another directional light, and I'm going to rotate it here a little bit, so that one is kind of fills from this side. I'm going to just move it out of there. But directional light doesn't matter if you move it, by the way, but and this one I'm going to keep it very, very low. I'm going to just do an intensity of 0.5. I cannot lower the exposure, so I just do intensity 0.5. And I'm going to try to render it out to see how that looks. That's fitting in a little bit here. Let me just crank it up a tiny bit more. I'm gonna say intensity of 0.8. So you start seeing some more light there. That makes it a bit better. I'm gonna leave it like that for now. I'm gonna probably tweak it some more later, but for now that's good. One thing that the light is doing is that you see that this one's casting shadows here, and the other one's casting shadow there. I don't want that light to cast shadows, so I'm gonna just, with that light still selected, I'm gonna uncheck the cast shadow section so it doesn't cast shadows. The only one that's casting shadows is this one on this side, and I'm gonna leave it like that for now. I'm gonna pause this for a moment here. Good idea to increment and save. And now the element there, the key element is, yeah, it's not looking bad. It's looking better, but I'm going to give more information to it. And what I need to do is, because this is metal, in order for me to see more of the effect of the metal, and you see that it's working here better because it's reflecting, I'm going to add an opportunity for it to reflect more. So Arnold has stuff that allows you to do that, but I'm going to teach you here in this exercise a way of doing it manually. And sometimes this works very, very nicely when you have problems that you cannot get an object to reflect what you want to reflect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply pull back here. I'm going to use the same plane because it's already there. So I'm going to duplicate that plane. I'm going to move it up, and I'm going to use it as a bounce card. You know how in photography they use bounce cards to bounce light? Well, in this case I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to use it to bounce a light of an image, pretty much, so that I can see reflection of that image on my object. So I'm going to use it here as a bounce card, and I'm going to create a new shader for that object. And that shader, I don't want it to do it to be a AI standard or anything else, because I want it to be just a card to be used for bouncing light or for bouncing an image. So I'm going to just clear this here. I'm going to create a new shader, an Arnold shader, so the Arnold is the better, that is called an AI flat. An AI flat is a shader that is, as the word says, it's completely flat. It doesn't receive shadows at all. So there it is, and I'm going to map to that flat, to that flat shader. I'm going to map a photograph pretty much, and that photograph, I'm going to just make it a bit larger here. It's going to have information that it's going to be reflecting. So let me just try to look for that image. I think it's a JPEG actually that I have. You shouldn't use a JPEG honestly, but for now I have a JPEG. I'm going to say open it, and there it is. It's kind of like a wood shop type of photograph that I just got, and I'm going to assign that material to that object. Assign material to selection. You can see it there. It's kind of sideways, so I'm going to just rotate it there so it's kind of like a little bit better to reflect, and I'm going to just test it out now. And you start seeing that now that photograph is giving me a different result that is making it more interesting. You know, the pliers themselves become a bit more believable. Let me try to move around my camera and probably move. Let me have it here on the side so you can see it. I'm going to try to move the object a little bit so that we have a better control of what is being reflected. Alright, so if I go closer now, you get to see a little bit better what, you know, the material is doing. It takes a little bit longer, of course, to render, but you start seeing now that my pliers start looking much better. There is a lot of you know, more information on the screw and on the pliers themselves. I'm gonna stop this rendering right now. There are a few things that I don't like about it. One of them is, of course, that is generating that you know, is reflecting on the plane, where I wanted to reflect, but at the same time it's reflecting on my object. And it's kind of casting some sort of like a dark shadow. It's kind of, so that I don't like. So I am going to remove that by having the object selected. I'm going to open up under the attribute for that plane. I'm going to open up, there is one section there called the render stats, and in the render stats I can tell it to not cast shadows, not receive shadows, and not be primarily visible, so that way it doesn't render. And let's try it out now. So there you go. You see how it disappears from the image back there, but it's not, but it's still visible on my pliers. So it makes it a lot cooler, a lot more efficient, a lot more functional, and still they produce the light, the bounced light that I wanted to use. So this is a, you know, mega powerful tool. Now there is something that I want to fine tune, and that is that the pliers themselves. Let me just shrink this down so I have a chance to see it while I'm testing. The pliers themselves, I could go and fine tune. I'm going to click on the object here. By the way, you can click here on this render view, and I'm going to graph it here with this little icon. And I'm going to fine tune the attributes for it so that I'm going to change. Right now the roughness of that metal has some roughness, so I'm going to bring down the roughness a little bit, see if I can change a little bit more so I can make my object be more reflective, and I can get to see some more of the back image reflected on my tool, which I think makes it a little bit look newer. I also going to even reduce the amount of bump to a very little small number, 0.005. That way the bump is there, it's rendered right now, but it is just small. Of course, that makes them look newer. I'm gonna make them larger here. I'm gonna get closer. You can see the bump showing there, but you can see how nicely my object. It's up to you. If you want to have an older item, you want to more reflectivity or more specularity better. If you have you want an object that is not so much, you can increase the roughness, so makes it a lot cooler and a lot nicer here. I'm going to right now I'm just gonna save for now. And we just have pending to continue improving the scene itself. So I'm going to just stop for now, and we'll continue in the next section.